lightning round.
No, it's Greg Zerline.
No. Oh.
I don't even know these people.
You have my solemn vow. We are done at wide receiver.
Nintendo said fold.
Till the next round.
This is sitting on top of my Scott Fishbowl. Trophy.
I have a cup for Cooper Cup, I guess.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday. It is lightning round, of course, powered by Fantasy Alarm. If I can say, of course, I don't know if Matthew Berry's given me the go ahead to say that, but you know what? We're just going to trudge on through anyway. Of course, Kevin Tompkins, Britt Flynn, Mr. Andrew Cooper. I don't want to, I don't want to sully your name, your good name here in these live stream streets here. And of course, the fabulous, the wonderful Jen Piacenti of Sports Illustrated. Jen, we were supposed to have you on like a couple years ago. That fell through, but I'm glad. Better late than never. How are you, Jen?
I am doing great. I have to say, from your intro, the most fantastic part was the mini stages of Britt. I liked her costumes. I feel like she had like fur in one. Like, say she has a ball cap. Like, you're getting like a fantastic fashionista on your Wednesday show. You guys are like, you could be outclassed. I'm just saying. I don't know. But
yeah, she gets a little bit fancier than us. Although in one of those clips, I'm pretty sure I was wearing like a tux and like a bow tie. So
I'll give you that.
That was the Fantasy Awards, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure though that floor length sequin cape though outdid all you guys tuxes. Just gonna say
it's pretty strong. I'm gonna have to bring the heat this year. Let's just say.
I'll just say that I was the only one committed to the bit and was actually live on the red carpet. I mean, you guys can commit a little more.
You actually were on the red carpet?
Yeah, I had the screen. I had it right behind me. It was not a green screen at all.
Looks like you got fans in here, Jen, from Wendy. Wow, hey, Jen, Wendy. Great guest. Great guest.
Let's
Axel's
go.
Amped up too.
I was on Sirius XM today talking about how literally, and I'm not exaggerating, the leagues that I play in that are all women are the toughest leagues. Like, I can't win them. The women are sharks, man. Bro. You know why? I've decided what it is. Here's what it is. Women are able to be less emotionally invested. So they can literally step back with sports. Okay. Men are so emotionally attached to sports. I feel like sometimes, I see these people's takes on Twitter and I'm like, why are you guys crying and whining and having to have it? Calm down, just calm down. And I think they carries into the draft. So if you play with a lot of women, I'm going to say, guys, if you get invited to a ladies league, just turn it down. You won't have fun.
My sister has won in the span of the same year. She won our football league, and then recently our hockey league. So she's a shark. She just puts
she might be on the clock, so I need to check our league.
Like you said, she puts her ego aside. You know what I mean? So
yes.
I'm still the best at this, like probably that there has ever been, but I will recognize that there's space for women in this sport.
So humility is Andrew Cooper's costume.
Always, as I've been known for my humility on this show.
Oh,
so
of course. And if I ever get invited to a ladies league, I'll make sure to get that wig a la Ladybugs and just run the table. I hope I'm not the only one who's seen Ladybugs. I'm just saying that.
Luke, you're supposed to be on our team, dude. What the heck?
We want you to play with us. It's more fun. It's more fun if we have co-ed leagues, right? That's the best way to do it.
That's right.
You got to butt heads. We need that, just that battle. But let's get into the football here. Let's go ahead and do that football. We're talking some values at ADP, Valuetown, if you will. It is a series that I was doing, writing for Fighting Chance Fantasy and Ball Blast. But you know what? Let's bring that right over to lightning round here. The best ADP values on Underdog Fantasy. Jen, of course, ladies first. Who just give us one of your values and let's do that football. Also, one more thing. How does it feel to be back on the Fantasy Alarm airwaves yet again?
Oh, it always, guys, this is home. Come on. Fantasy Alarm.
Jen, that's what I feel about when I see your tweets, I'm just in my mind, I'm still like, that's me, that's us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's #family. So, and then I remember that you left for Sports Illustrated. But I mean, that's just the way it is in this industry. Like everybody is still, as long as you leave on a good note, like you're still family to us, Jen.
I mean, I still trade barbs with Howard via text regularly. I think he called me names or something recently. It's all love. It's all love. Yeah, and Adam Ronis and I are like pals from way back. So I love the whole Fantasy Alarm. So I'm always here. And the Fantasy Alarm people at home, the hashtag family, you guys are amazing. And it really is like a family. In fact, I think Coop, you and I, when we did Pros with Joe's, didn't we both have kind of like the biggest donations? That's the family.
Big. And Pemba was top 5 too. Like it was pouring in. It was pouring
That's
off.
the family. That's the people that are connected to Fantasy Alarm, and that's why I love it so much. But anyway,
as it should be pouring in. Guys like Millionaire Mike winning $1 million off of Howard's playbook. I mean, at least he could do, give back to the family. So yeah. But anyway, let's get to some of these players. Jen.
All right, so my fantasy value to start out, I'm going to go with the quarterback position, and I am going to go with none other than Mr. Matt Ryan. First, I mean, so many reasons. So he's going off the board, quarterback 24 right now? Quarterback 20 right now, and which is where he finished last year. He finished as quarterback 20. Okay, so you're taking him where he finished last year. But we're talking about a guy that is a 4-time Pro Bowler. He has a career 65.5% completion rate. He's thrown for 4,000 yards or more in 10 of his 14 professional seasons. He's led his team to a Super Bowl. He actually threw for nearly 4,000 yards last year without Julio Jones most of the time, without Calvin Ridley most of the time. And God bless Cordero Patterson. I love him, but it's not the same thing. So he's now going to go to Indianapolis, where he's going to be in a Frank Reich system, which is going to be great for him. He's going to have a much better O-line and the beautiful, beautiful complement of Jonathan Taylor, who's going to be a threat. Then talk about, you're putting him down right here in the AFC South. So he's going to be playing the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Texans, who are, I believe, 8th, 9th, and 10th in half-point PPR leagues as far as passing points allowed. So this all adds up to me to be a screaming value. He's quarterback 20 with the potential to easily finish as top 12 in my mind, maybe higher. And in fact, Carson Wentz finished as QB 14 last year. You think Matt Ryan can't do at least that if Carson Wentz could? Because his numbers were not as good as Matt Ryan's. So I love it. I love Matt Ryan. There's no way I'm passing him up into Superflex. And even in some leagues, if I'm really stacking everything up early with other players, I might even be willing to roll it with him as my QB1.
Boom.
Well, and that's the thing about Matt Ryan too. Like his offensive line last season was just absolutely atrocious. And Matt Ryan was still number 2 in deep ball accuracy rating. He was number 2 in deep ball catchable pass rate. He was number 3 under pressure. And now he goes to the Colts, who is a major upgrade in this offensive line. And they have the 3rd easiest strength of schedule. And then you talk about Michael Pittman, who's been on a lot of people's breakout lists. You talk about Alec Pierce, who's coming in as a rookie. I mean, Matt Ryan, there's no way that he does not just absolutely slaughter this season. And quarterback 20 is preposterous, to be quite honest.
My favorite argument are the people that come out and they say, oh, well, they're going to run too much. Well, on the Falcons a couple years ago, they were 2016, they were the top 5 team in the league in running. They were actually 4th in the league when they had Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. Both guys were basically RB1s, right? Matt Ryan was the QB2 overall and was the MVP of the league. So you're going to tell me that this team's going to be too good for him to throw the football? Is that the situation? They're going to be too good at running. They're going to be winning every game by so much that they're never going to throw? That's literally never the case. Good teams are good. They score touchdowns. Matt Ryan's a good quarterback. Everything I'm hearing out of the camp says that he's just taken over. It's night and day, right? Like everything's good. There's no bad news. To me, no news is bad and bad news is bad. Good news typically is at least okay. So I'm on board with Matt Ryan. Let's do it. Pretty easy pick for me, especially in underdog where you can take him as your QB2. You can take him as your QB3 at his ADP. It's like crazy talk.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Matt Ryan seems to just be one of those guys that just he falls. I mean, people, I'm a noted ageist, but I have no problems with Matt Ryan at all. I mean, his offensive line was just atrocious in Atlanta, and now he's going to Indianapolis. Market upgrade. I mean, Atlanta had Ryan faced pressure at the 6th highest rate last season in Atlanta. So, I mean, going to that line now, he's got Jonathan Taylor behind him, takes a lot of pressure off. He's got a bona fide number 1 receiver. I mean, the dude was throwing to Olamide Zacchaeus, Russell Gage, Frank Darby. Like, it was just, I mean, Kyle Pitts, sure, but it was just so bad. It was a ghost ship. That was a ghost ship when, Julio was out, or Julio was traded. Calvin Ridley was out. It was not good. So, Matt Ryan at ADP. I mean, they're going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns. It might be a little bit of a slower pace in Indianapolis, just based on how they do want to run their offense. But, Matt Ryan is somebody that can win with efficiency. And, he had 20 touchdowns. I believe it was his either lowest or second lowest of his career in a full season, but second lowest. So I could totally see him in a best case scenario getting up to back up to 30, 28 to 30. Britt, what about you? One of your best values here on Underdog.
So I'm going to go with Derek Carr. And as I researched this, I honestly, one of my very best friends and one of the first home leagues that I've been in is a super Raiders fan. And I had to text him because I was like, man, I'm coming up with way too many nice things to say about Derek Carr. But it's true. So he finished as QB 13 last year with only 15.94 points per game. But then you look at the personnel that he had, right? Waller was hurt and only played 11 games, including against Dallas, where he left in the first quarter. Carr also lost his number 1 wide receiver in the first half of the season, and he lost his coach. The Raiders this year are a different team. They, the O-line has kind of been iffy, but they drafted Dylan Parham to improve that. And Carr was actually a lot better in certain situations than people like to admit. He had 4,800 passing yards, which was number 5 in the league. He was number 5 in air yards, number 7 in yards per attempt, and he was number 2 in accuracy rating. The kicker for me, though, is that he was number 1 in play action completion percent. You look at their new head coach in Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels absolutely crushed using play action in New England. I mean, you could never tell that it was a play action. Every play action play that he called looked identical to a run play, and no defense was ever able to figure that out. So now you've got that in your play caller, and you bring on Devontae Adams, who's the best receiver in football, arguably, if not fantasy. And Carr isn't going to be forced into pressure dropbacks. Like, he's going to run that play action. He's going to run that. He's got weapons. I mean, I think Derek Carr could be like a quarterback 9-ish this year. And it's kind of crazy for me to say that because I'm not a fan of the Raiders, but every card is working in his favor here.
Yeah, and I've actually kind of been, I was on this Derek Carr train last year before he actually had one of his better years, because I did the same thing, the same exercise. I went and I looked and I was like, God, this guy actually like completes a lot of his passes at a really high rate. For 2020, 67.3% completion rate, which is better than Kyler Murray, which is better than, Justin Herbert, better than Patrick Mahomes, the guy we all love to love or hate if you're a man. Britt.
Yeah.
Also, yards per attempt, like he's up there and he's really good. And just quite simply, it doesn't have to be more complicated than the fact that they got the guy Devontae Adams. Like, they got the guy Devontae Adams. How much more can you do? We already saw him be awesome with Hunter Renfrow. We saw that even if they get down, he can come back. He can rally. I mean, they had some incredible come from behind wins last year. It's just not more complicated. So you got Waller, you got Renfrow, you've got Devontae Adams. It's just, how are you not loving Derek Carr that way? So I actually have gone in to multiple drafts with a draft plan of just taking Derek Carr. That's it. I'm just going to build with Devontae Adams, get anybody I can in between, and then take Derek Carr. I have 2 or 3 drafts I've built that way on purpose.
I mean, Jen, based on ADP, you could literally wait until every team takes a quarterback and then take Derek Carr and Matt Ryan. And people, they played in the Scott Fishbowl know that he's the cheat code because of the completion percentage, right? And I'm running out of ways to say that they've been trying to get this guy weapons. Like Antonio Brown showed up with some leather helmet from the 80s that he painted black trying to play, and then he froze his feet off with like liquid nitrogen. And then they go out and they draft Henry Ruggs, who's in jail. They in the third round they take Brian Edwards. He's not even on the team. They take Lynn Bowden in the same third round. He's not even on the team. Like, they've been trying to get this guy weapons forever, and he was still top 5 in passing yards. So they go out and get the very best wide receiver in the league, who he played with in college, that bought the house right next door to him. Like, I don't know how have people not know that? Like, how is he not going in the QB1 range now?
It's visions of Tom Brady and Gronk, right? Like having their bromance on Instagram. Like, that's totally Devontae Adams and Derek Carr right now. And it's just, of course it could flop. It could flop, but I have a feeling that Derek Carr and Devontae Adams are hanging a lot more after games than Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers were.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, Darren Waller missed half the games last year. He put up the top 5 passing yard numbers with basically just Hunter Renfrow, who looks like a goddamn pen salesman. He looks like Dustin Pedroia. You know what I mean? Like, now he's got Waller and Adams, and Renfrow can be the third guy. It's the perfect setup for it, man. Derek Carr is going to smash this year at his ADP for sure.
Yep. And if you look up Derek Carr in the dictionary, right next to stand-in for Robb Stark from Game of Thrones, you will find touchdown regression. Like, he only threw for 23 touchdowns next to the 4,800 yards that he threw for. So, you had in Devontae Adams, #neighbor narrative. He had a 3.7 touchdown rate last year, well below his career average of 4.3. So, everything is just lined up for Derek Carr to smash. If they can get a full season out of Darren Waller to add to Renfrow, to add to Adams, this passing game is going to be humming. And Derek Carr, just anybody that slept on him is going to be hating, because you could have gotten this guy QB 14, QB 15. And yeah, like Coop said, you could literally watch everybody just take all these quarterbacks. Trey Lance may not even start the season as the quarterback, and people are drafting him at quarterback 9 or 10. But Derek Carr is just sitting out there, just pick me. And
yeah, that's my tolerance level. Like, there is no way I would take Trey Lance before I would take Derek Carr on my fantasy team. I would not take that risk. I would rather take other positional players and wait on Derek Carr. I feel like that is a much more solid choice. There is a lot of risk with Trey Lance. He might be massive, but it's not a shot I want to take that early on a quarterback when I can get this much production down the line from a Matt Ryan or a Derek Carr. Again, that's draft style. But if I look at this, like you said, this is going to be Valuetown. I'm like, oh, good, because I love shopping and I love a sale. And I love to look at this and like these guys are on sale. They're like fire sale. So I'm definitely in on both Derek Carr and Matt Ryan at their ADPs. That's how I like to build.
It's just bad where I say that my most done stack of 2 quarterbacks is Trey Lance and Derek Carr playing the week 17.
Yeah, you get the upside, you get the safety. I think it's solid pairing.
The ceiling.
Correlation.
We are singing after all. So let me jump over to wide receiver, because we just did 2 quarterbacks. So I got a guy here, Adam Thielen, and I actually went to go write an article about Adam Thielen. And then I realized that nothing has changed from the article I wrote last year. So I'm probably just going to retweet that, because he's still a top 2 target on the team. Right? He's still getting a super high consolidation of targets. Before he got hurt last year, he was wide receiver 7. Hashtag too many touchdowns. He can't keep getting away with it, right? Like, this guy is just a touchdown machine. And it's like, so many times you talk about a player and people go, oh, well, if you owned him last year, then you would have realized how bad it was. Like, anyone that's had Adam Thielen, he's the kind of player that's a complete opposite. Like, anytime you've had him, you put him in your lineup and he's a wide receiver 1. You know what I mean? He fairly consistently scores. You just put him in there, you set it and forget it, right? Besides the fact that he got hurt last year, a little ankle sprain, the year before that, it looks like he might have got hurt, but he just missed the game with COVID. Like, he's not like he's super injury prone. He rolled his ankle, So this is a guy that I think once again is going to be a top 2 target on that team with Justin Jefferson. You can get him at wide receiver 35. Why? I know it's been beaten to death, but why 10 wide receivers, not picks, wide receivers earlier are we taking Gabriel Davis, hoping and praying that he can be the touchdown scoring second target on his team when Adam Thielen is sitting right there, literally multiple rounds later? It boggles my mind. If you like Gabriel Davis, then you must love Adam Thielen at his ADP. So Adam Thielen, for me, lock it in again. It'll probably score double-digit touchdowns again.
Hold it in, Kevin. Hold it in.
I mean, I can't disagree. Like, I feel like saying the same thing. I feel like this is like deja vu because we had this same conversation last year on every podcast, on every whatever. And Adam Thielen probably is just that good. We should just accept it. It's okay. It's okay.
Well, the thing with me about
changed?
Adam Thielen, like, it's not even the total touchdowns. Like, he was 11th in fantasy points per target. He was 7th in total touchdowns. But the thing for me that like really seals the deal with Adam Thielen is that he was 25th in expected fantasy points per game, but he ended in 14th. Like, this guy produces. I don't care like about the too many touchdown narrative. Like, he's wide receiver 2 on a very good team and a very competitive team who's going to force feed him targets, and he's good at what he does as a wide receiver. So he's going to produce regardless of the touchdowns. The touchdowns are kind of just a bonus.
The whole touchdown thing,
He's the perfect red zone target. Look at, he's huge.
the whole touchdown thing is blowing my mind too, because this guy had in the first 11 games before he hurt his ankle, he had 90 targets in 11 games. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares about the touchdowns, man? If he doesn't have the touchdowns, he's still going to be awesome. And if he has the touchdowns, he's people like last year, once again, wide receiver 7 through those 11 games. And people were just like, he can't. Well, the touchdowns. The touchdowns don't matter. If he's wide receiver 35 in ADP, he could have 0 touchdowns and still be wide receiver like 24 based on 110 targets or 120 targets, whatever it is. So I don't want to hear about the touchdowns. I don't want to hear about it ever again.
And those were the people that were still starting Rondale Moore in like week 11 over Adam Thielen.
Right.
Just praying and hoping.
ADOT.
Right, and his 25% routes percentage.
Shout out to Sellers for spending 300 in fab in week 2 on our co-managed team on Rondale Moore. Man, we still fight about
Sellers is that dude though, man. Like Sellers is the hype machine, is he not? Like he's all for a good hype beast. Like he's on Gabe Davis. He's on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Women.
Jen, if you don't know, that's my husband.
Yeah.
And so we co-manage a team, and we still fight about it.
I think
to
that's
this
beautiful.
day.
That's what a great relationship is built on.
That's right.
Fantasy football, man.
Loop, I'm not taking down this show for 40 minutes over Gabriel Davis, so I promise we will talk about him. But I
Loop
don't know.
is such a troll, dude. Throw him out of the chat. Get him mods. Get him out.
Mods. It's like what? It's us. We are mods. We need to. We don't.
I was talking to you, Kev.
Oh well, I'm on the hunt for an intern. If anybody is interested, hit me up in my email. No, the only knock on Adam Thielen is just his yards per route run is starting to decline a little bit. But we were talking about he's getting the touchdowns. He's going to get the touch. He's been top 25 in red zone targets for the last 5 seasons. So unless the entire Minnesota Vikings offense just completely tanks, Adam Thielen will still be hashtag too many touchdowns.
There you go.
And I guess I better talk about one of my players. And we'll stay in the wide receiver range here. We'll talk about, someone in Coop's neighborhood, Jacoby Myers, who is one of the guys that I drafted the most in his draft range, which is wide receiver 63. You mean to tell me that a guy with a 23% target share last season who has very little competition around him is going to be going in the same areas like David Bell and George Pickens and guys like that? Like, that's just absolutely absurd to me that a guy like Jacoby Myers is just sitting out there. I mean, I think he has a correction coming up. If we're really betting on the Patriots offense, McDaniels is gone. Belichick might be taking over the play calling there, but I mean, Devontae Parker's not scaring me as far as any sort of number one wide receiver threat. I mean, Tyquan Thornton's not doing that either. He's always going to, whenever the Patriots are going to be passing the ball, he was top 6 in routes run per drop back, 92%. I mean, there's just no way that a guy like Jacoby Myers with those kind of stats, touchdown regression. Hopefully he can catch a couple more touchdowns this season. But I mean, you caught a couple last season too. But I mean, if he just gets some touchdown regression to go with just his raw, receptions and gets above 1,000 yards, I mean, you're looking at a guy that has potential for 90, 1,005 touchdowns at wide receiver 63 is just absurd.
So as far as where he's being drafted, I think you're right. You can't would you say pick 160?
Well, he's wide receiver 63 right now in Underdog.
Wide receiver 63. That feels like a no loss. You have nothing to lose there. I just have trouble drafting any Patriots players, period. Because like Kendrick Bourne also had about the same amount of receiving yards. I think he had more touchdowns because they used him as a running back half the time. And it's just so hard to know from week to week who to play. And Jacoby Myers was really good for a while and then not. So like, I can't get excited about Jacoby Myers. However, I agree that when you get to that point in your draft, why wouldn't you take him? Because should it pay off? It could pay off really big, especially if Mac Jones makes some, advances in his second year. I am definitely concerned. I want your feedback about this, Coop, about the fact that maybe Belichick is calling plays, or maybe somebody else is, or maybe somebody, and they're all like pointing fingers at everybody else, and they seem to have no plan. I feel like I want to hear them have a plan, but then again, we had a defensive-minded coach calling plays. Like we saw a game where Mac Jones threw for 2 yards last year. 2. And
that good
for fantasy. And I'm afraid if Bill Belichick is calling plays, these things are going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the playbook, Matt Patricia is just going to pull that pencil out of his ear and just draw up the plays just on the fly. Just every game, just kind of like old school in the dirt style,
This worked for Detroit.
Yeah. But I think they clearly have a new playbook. Kendrick Bourne came out and said that. We've had hints along the way. Jakob Johnson came out and said they're not using a fullback. They told him that they're just not using the position at all. Kendrick Bourne said there's actually new terminology, so it may not be the old modified Erhardt-Perkins system we're used to. Now, with both what Kev and Jen said, to me, I agree with both of those, and I'm not really grabbing Jacoby Myers in my typical leagues where I'm starting 2 or 3 wide receivers, and it's that type of league, right? But here we're kind of leaning into Underdog and best ball format, right? And since we're talking Underdog, we're talking go and use promo code ALARM when you get set up. They'll match up with the $100 bonus. When you go on Monkey Knife Fight, when you go on Prize Picks, use promo code ALARM, get yourself a bonus, all right?
Cheesecake Factory too.
Cheesecake Factory. I mean, when you're on Yahoo, use promo code ALARM25. That's a slightly different code, but on most other places, just plug in ALARM wherever you are. You'll probably get a discount. Kohl's, give it a try. You never know. We're everywhere. So anyway, when you're on, let's say like Underdog, people keep saying to me that you need these spike weeks, but when I look at the teams that win, it's a balance of upside and floor, right? So if you spent your whole draft so far shooting for the moon, going for crazy picks, why not take a safe floor guy like Jacoby Myers that will make sure you don't get those zeros? Because especially in these big tournaments, if you have 1 week where you get a 0 in your lineup, you're dust, you're toast. You need to win your league to go to the playoffs, and then every single week you need to be perfect to go to the next round. Right. So you need those floor guys during the regular season to get you there. And guys like Jacoby Myers at their ADP, that's how you balance it. If I've gone safe guys along the way, like, the Adam Thielens and the DJ Moores, then I don't want Jacoby Myers. Then I want to take stabs later. But if I've taken my upside stabs early, then I'll mix with Jacoby Myers. And so there's definitely a place for this guy. And I think his ADP is right.
I love the ADP. I love the pick at the ADP.
Right. That's exactly what it is. That's why it's Valuetown. Right. Mm-hmm.
#Valuetown.
#Valuetown.
But another thing about Jacoby Myers, like last year we were always like on Jacoby Myers touchdown watch, right? Like he's never going to score a touchdown. He doesn't provide like any upside, But I think he kind of does. Like he's a really underrated route runner, and Devontae Parker really doesn't scare me. I think it's basically Hunter Henry, and then Jacoby Myers is going to get his. Mac Jones is going to take that second-year leap into kind of this full-on franchise quarterback. And looking at Jacoby Myers last year, he was number 6 in total route wins, number 6 in route win rate, and number 5 in win rate versus man. Like this guy is a stone cold killer when it comes to route running. And you give Mac Jones that second season to like help him develop, help him learn the playbook, help him learn, you know, everything about the system. And everybody is going to benefit from that. So I'm all in on Jacoby Myers, especially at his ADP. Like, it's probably the opposite of Adam Thielen, right? Like, Jacoby Myers doesn't score enough touchdowns, but he's still good enough for me. You know, he's bound to get there.
Right. Absolutely. Jen, your other value player here in Valuetown.
So I want to say I did not run this by Andrew Cooper. I have no idea what Andrew Cooper thinks, and this could be a terrible pick. But this is a gut reaction pick, and it's very similar to Kev's pick, where it's like, well, at this point, what do you have to lose? It's Robert Tonyan, and it's because what did I say he's going at? He's going as tight end 16. Is that right? Well, all I can think is we just talked about how Davante Adams went to the Raiders, and we saw Aaron Rodgers and Robert Tonyan be best buddies in 2020 when he had 11 touchdowns. Well, who's going to step up? I know we all hope it's Christian Watson, and maybe it's Alan Lazard, and who knows? But what we do know is that there is a pathway, there is an opportunity for Robert Tonyan to be that guy. And he's definitely a good red zone target. It may bust. It absolutely could. He didn't look that great last year, but remember, Davante Adams was still there. They still had MVS. They still had other things going on. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like Randall Cobb breakout season at age like 47 or however old he is at this point. So when I'm thinking I can get him as my second tight end, for instance, those of you who accidentally drafted Rob Gronkowski and now you're kind of stuck because you're in the middle of the draft, you can get Robert Tonyan later to hopefully make up for that big oops. Or maybe if you just want to punt the position, it's such a good place, I think, to start. So he's going after Cole Kmet. He's going after Irv Smith. So if you're not going to take a Mark Andrews or a Darren Waller, I like how late you can wait to get Robert Tonyan, who has had success with Aaron Rodgers before.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that knows my stuff for the most part knows historically that I haven't liked Tonyan, but it's a new year here. I didn't like him previously because he was so touchdown dependent, but when you talk about this format, it washes away the sins of touchdown dependency. You don't have to worry about that game where you put him in there. Like the year that he scored 11 touchdowns, you put him in championship week, he scored 1 touchdown and pulled your pants down in front of all your friends. Like, you don't have to worry about that situation happening to you in best ball, because he scores a touchdown, he goes in your lineup. He doesn't score a touchdown, you don't have to worry about him. So guys like that at this ADP, I'm actually okay with it. I bet people out there probably thought that I was going to not like this pick, but like, in a world where
I was ready to fight.
Right. I know I have no problem with it in this situation, especially because there's no Davante Adams soaking up 160 targets or 170 or 250 or whatever that he was doing previously. Like, now it's a lot more spread out, and this guy has, like you said, some of the best rapport with the quarterback. So I have no problem with it in this format. Just like I talked about before with balance, if you're going to take Robert Tonyan, make sure your other guy is a guy that's in line to get some targets. So maybe go with like a Zach Ertz or somebody who's like a target hog and has a floor to him. That way you have the floor guy in your lineup, and then Tonyan just comes in touchdown weeks and he pops in to kind of juice up your score from week to week. So I don't mind it in best ball. That's the format where I like it. In other formats, it could get a little dicey if he continues to be the touchdown dependent guy that we've seen him historically be. So we'll have to see what it looks like early on before I start starting him in any leagues.
Well, my thing with Tonyan is that, you know, last year there weren't a ton of stats because he did suffer that ACL injury pretty early on. But the one thing that really stood out to me was that he was number 10 in deep targets per game. He had 0.9 deep targets per game. And that was before he even got hurt. So now you factor in that Adams isn't there. And then you look back at his 2020 stats. He was number 1 in target separation, number 1 in catch rate, number 3 in yards per target, and number 3 in fantasy points per target. Like, this guy does have upside, especially when you consider that Davante Adams isn't there. And while everybody's over here arguing about Alan Lazard or Christian Watson, why not just pivot to Tonyan? I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm nervous about Christian Watson. I think he has a fantastic ability, but again, we're talking about rookies, and we've seen Aaron Rodgers before. He doesn't really like new people. He doesn't do so well. Like
he's kind of a butthole with new people.
Truly is.
I mean, I
don't like when situations change on players I don't like. Like I would love to just crush Robert Tonyan like usual, but when things change, you have to change your stance. You know what I mean? So it's like we got to respect the new situation. New things have come to light, right, Kev?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like really bad host because I don't have that clip pulled up. Well, actually, you know what?
I've got information, man. New shit has come to light.
I might have stalled for like 2 seconds so I could find that.
It works. I sprung it on you.
But you know what? I'm a resident Packer fan. Like new information has come to light, and I have trashed Robert Tonyan in the past. I mean, this is going on his 2020 where he scored too many touchdowns and probably did score too many touchdowns. But you know what? There's so much ambiguity in the Packers offense right now that why not Robert Tonyan? This offense is full of guys who have never earned a target in their lives. Christian Watson never earned targets at NDSU. Allen Lazard has never earned targets in his entire career. He has 3 8+ target games in his entire career since 2019. Randall Cobb hasn't earned a target since the Carter administration. Romeo Dubs, Sammy Watkins, who thinks he's a literal alien. So when you're looking at these options and you're looking at Allen Lazard and Robert Tonyan having the most rapport, maybe outside of Randall Cobb, but I don't think Randall Cobb's a realistic.
What kind of an alien? Like a gray? Like a Palladian? Like does he have like? It's Bob Lazar. Like I need more of this. This is new information.
It's complicated, but let's just say that like very subtle racism is involved. Like he follows these guys and like subscribes to this like cult called like Mentellect. I know we don't have a whole time to get into it. This is for another show, but like they basically think that like my understanding from their website is that they think that African American people are aliens and some sort of superior beings to everyone else. So him
and Aaron Rodgers are going to get along very well.
They're going to get along.
Their expanded views on the universe.
It's
the clubhouse, the locker room, whatever you call it in the football sport.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be doing something. So yeah, it's an interesting, you know what I mean? But hey, the guy's a really good run blocker. So
yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? One more thing too. He did tear his ACL in week 8, and Rob Domofsky, who is the ESPN beat reporter for the Packers, did put out his 53-man projection, I believe today. And he had Robert Tonyan going on the PUP list. So that is something to definitely monitor. Maybe his knee is not rehabbing as well as, people are thinking. So like I said, it was week 8 and we are talking about like in the same week as a guy like J.K. Dobbins may hit the PUP list, and he tore his ACL before preseason or the first week of preseason. So
it was late August. Yeah.
Okay. It was, that's right. Cause Gus Edwards did that at the beginning, all those Baltimore running backs. But anyway, whoever, Coop, you're next.
Mine's good because she just mentioned him, Cole Kmet, and I think that Cole Kmet is the perfect yin to Tonyan's yang for this type of setup, because Cole Kmet's a guy that just got 93 targets last year, and that was with Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney got 140 targets last year, and he was not particularly efficient with them. You can't really get that many more targets than 140. That's top 12. I mean, like it doesn't go much higher. They brought in Byron Pringle, who another very good run blocking wide receiver. Velus Jones, who I think is 37-year-old rookie. But beyond that, I don't even think I can really tell you anybody else that they have on that roster. And in terms of Cole Kmet's talent, we have to remember that his rookie year in this format we're talking about, which is underdog half-point PPR, Jimmy Graham. Do you guys remember where Jimmy Graham finished in half PPR?
Last year?
No, in Kmet's rookie year. So we're talking 2020, the year before last.
Probably. I think he's in the.
I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
He was tight end 11. He was tight end 11. He scored 8 touchdowns. And at the end of that season, Cole Kmet chased him off and was the guy that was starting in the slot, starting over him. He straight Pat Fryermused him before there was a Pat Frymuth. You know
I
what
think
I mean?
we were the first two on that, Coop, actually. I remember in the group chat.
I saw it changing. I was looking at Pro Football Focus, staring into the matrix, and I'm like, how the numbers are shifting. Like, this guy's playing more, this guy's playing left. And he chased off Jimmy Graham. Now he's the guy. They're doing kind of like a productive struggle rebuild year here. They didn't bring anybody in. They didn't bring in the pass catchers are worse than they were last year. You know what I mean? The quarterback should be a little better. And I don't see, he got 93 targets last year. I don't see why he can't do better than that. So you take Komet for the targets, you take Tunyon for the touchdowns, and you got the right type of balance and upside to get you through, and you don't even have to draft a top 12 wide receiver. I'm not really even doing it. There's just enough of these guys out here between Evan Engram, who I love, and all these other guys. So, for me, it's pretty easy pick in this whole range. I like him better than a lot of the guys that are not even top 2 targets on their team, which there's many of them going ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, Cole Kmet was basically an every week entry in my waiver wire article last year at Sports Illustrated, and people still, I don't know why I would keep it like, well, he's still 65% available. Well, he's still 62% available, guys. And he was just getting the targets. He was getting the opportunities. So, I like Cole Kmet as well.
Yeah, the thing with Cole Kmet, I think that had a lot of people turned off on him was the fact that he did drop a lot of passes, but then you look at his quarterback play, and like Darnell Mooney dropped a lot of passes because the quality of those passes just wasn't that great. I think you put him, Justin Fields, with a new head coach, iffy improved offensive line with their draft, but I think just that second year progression is going to help them both. And they didn't bring anybody else in there. So it's going to be Komet and it's going to be Mooney. And Fields was very vocal about his displeasure with Matt Nagy. So I think having this new head coach in there is going to improve his game. And Komet's finally going to get the job done. Like, he's got the targets. He's going to find the end zone eventually. And I think that this year is going to be it.
Yeah, like Cole Kmet got every opportunity to be able to just be on that, just having to go through those growing pains with Justin Fields. I mean, Cole Kmet got pretty close to the 80% range as far as routes run per dropback. So I could totally see that going up this year on a worse offensive ecosystem around him as far as actual pass catchers that can challenge him and challenge Mooney. I mean, if Komet doesn't, if he's not the top 2 target on the Chicago Bears this season, I mean, there's something wrong, or he got hurt or something. I mean, 18% target share. His air yard share was right around that QB or tight end 10, 11, 12 range. I mean, there's just touchdown regression on this offense. I mean, year 2 Justin Fields, if this offense, if Luke Getsy can actually use Justin Fields properly, unlike the Matt Nagy regime. I mean, it's going to be great for Mooney. It's going to be great for Komet. They're not going to win a lot of games, but they're at least going to throw some balls in the air, and Komet's going to come down with a bunch of them. So if you're looking for a tight end in that after tight end 12, Cole Komet's definitely a guy to like Coop said, get your floor play, get your ceiling play. Komet can definitely be your ceiling play with probably a lot more.
Yeah, touchdowns can't regress the other way. He had 0. So, I mean, they can't go the other way. So,
yeah.
It can only regress in one direction. Britt, who you got?
True.
Are you saying negative numbers aren't real?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you could fumble a 2-point conversion. They run it back the other way. Do you get negative for that? I don't know. But, I mean, maybe you should. Anyway.
In fantasy, probably not. But I have Melvin Gordon. So, we all know that Melvin Gordon is the number 2 behind Javonte Williams, and everybody wants Javonte Williams to be like this bell cow back. But I just don't think that that's going to happen. And Melvin Gordon being drafted as running back 36 is absolutely crazy to me. So he finished 2021 as running back 21, but was 11th in rushing yards with almost 1,000. He had 919. He was 8th in total touchdowns, and he was 7th in evaded tackles. I think that the presence of Russell Wilson should only benefit the run game, because last season you had Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. And so everybody was just stacking the box the entire time because they were expecting them to run or throw very inaccurate passes. So I actually think having a better quarterback is going to help this run game. You also look at Nathaniel Hackett coming in as their head coach, and he ran a successful offense in Green Bay with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. even if Melvin Gordon's production drops a little, he's still a low end running back 2, high end flex, and you're getting him in the 9th round or later. Like, he's going to have a definite role in this offense, and I just can't fathom why he's being drafted so late. I mean, Melgo's not dead, y'all.
It's extraordinary. And I like Javonte Williams too, but people have so much helium on that pick that could really bite them, because like break it down in half point PPR, Javonte Williams had 183.4, Melvin Gordon had 181.2. Okay. So sure, maybe it will be more 70-30, but probably not. My understanding is Russell Wilson and Melvin Gordon are pals and they like working together. And there's just no reason to change what's a winning configuration. As you mentioned with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, the same thing. And guess what? Aaron Jones, the veteran, was the one that got the slightly larger share of that a lot of times. I'm not saying Melvin Gordon and Aaron Jones are exactly the same player, but it is a screaming value. It is a screaming value where you can get Melvin Gordon right now. So yeah, I'm 100% on Melvin Gordon. By the way, Aaron Jones, I think, is also a value kind of falling to the 2nd round right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're running up against it time-wise. So, I mean, I wrote an entire article on this topic. So Google my name and these guys' names, and then all the info is right there. And one thing I will just add is that Javonte Williams came out and said, it's going to be like it is last year. And then Melvin Gordon came out and said, I'm the starting running back. So I don't know. I thought these guys would just be like, yeah, we'll just share the load. But Melvin Gordon's like, nah, I'm a star. So kind of interesting dichotomy there. I mean, he is the veteran. So sometimes that's the way it goes.
They're paying him to be, right?
They're paying. And sometimes when you're like, people forget this is a workplace at times, you know what I mean? And sometimes when you have a guy like Melvin Gordon, who had, over the last 6 years has the 3rd most yards of any player behind only Zeke and Kamara, like that guy is like a legend to you. And when you're a 23-year-old dude, maybe sometimes you are like, all right, you know what? He gets the first pass because he's a veteran. It's just sometimes that there's a pecking order to these things, so it'll be interesting to see if they decide to just split it. I don't see why they wouldn't use 2 capable backs if they have 2 capable backs. I mean, in fantasy, we look at it the other way. We're like, they have these 2 guys that can both do the job. Why wouldn't they just use one? It's like, that's not how the real world works. So I don't know, Kev, what do you think?
Right. Well, the days of one running back just running the show in an offense, those days are dead. I mean, they died. They're going to die with Derrick Henry. They're going to die with, Najee Harris is like the outlier. I mean, that's what it used to be with guys like Priest Holmes, with guys like Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson. And now, that's just not what happens in today's NFL. All I'm going to say is hashtag shower narrative with Russell Wilson and Melvin Gordon at Wisconsin. So there is definitely something to that.
Hey, I want to add something real quick. Mr. Showtime in the chat just made an amazing point. And this is true right now in Underdog at this very moment. If you're in a draft that you think anybody in it is even remotely sharp, you cannot sit there and wait for Melvin Gordon to come up at his ADP. He's being consistently drafted above his ADP and it keeps creeping up. So if you want Melvin Gordon, you need to look at the board and say, I'm taking him here. Because if you just wait till you can't even, there's no draft I've seen where his name just actually makes it to the top. You got to take him early. So good point by Mr. Showtime. You have to start taking him early now, and his ADP will creep up. So come August, we'll decide if this is a good pick. But right now it is in Underdog. There's no question. I've get him a million times where he's the best guy on the board by far with 8 names ahead of him.
Yep, I fully agree. And you can kind of lump Jarvis Landry into that mix too, who I think is just right now criminally underpriced. My last guy, as far as a screaming value, he's going at wide receiver 45 right now. It's Kadarius Toney. I'm just going to list some names out real quick. Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Antonio Brown. Kadarius Toney is in with that crowd as wide receivers who finish with a 29% target per route run rate and 2.2 yards per route run. Like when he played that game against Dallas that he played showed the ceiling and the kind of ability that Kadarius Toney has. And now Brian Dable is coming in. Hopefully they can run a little bit more of a modern offense than the ghost of Jason Garrett and Freddie Kitchens ran in New York last season. So I'm fully in on Kadarius Toney, at least just buying the talent. Right now they're trotting out Kenny Galladay. They have Daniel Bellinger is the odds-on favorite to start at tight end for this team. I mean, I'm buying the talent on Kadarius Toney, especially at that price.
I think
Yeah.
I think the talent is phenomenal, and for the value, I am taking shots on Kadarius Toney as well. The only concern being that they were talking about trading him before the season, and I wonder if he's an issue in the clubhouse. So that's my only thing with Kadarius Toney, because as far as talent, I don't think there's a question. Like, I think he's the best player on that team for Daniel Jones or whomever. So I agree. So just with the caveat that I have some concerns that he may be a little bit like Antonio Brown, who you mentioned.
You think maybe a little bit? This guy, I think he is a lot of it crazy, dude. He called himself a Corvette or whatever it was. I mean, he showed up to practice like without shoes. Like, this dude is clearly crazy, Jen. So it's definitely a concern. I'm there with you. I think the other concern is Daniel Jones has more turnovers than touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. But on the flip side of that, like, you look at Kenny Golladay, for instance, who I also like Kenny Golladay at his ADP with Kadarius Toney, right? We know that Galladay's been good with Matt Stafford. We saw how bad he was with Daniel Jones. We have seen glimpses of Daniel Jones play well. So if Daniel Jones can get it together with a new coach and a new offense, it's not just Kenny Golladay that's going to play better. The rising tide lifts all boats. And we've seen Kadarius Toney put guys like Stephon Diggs on skates out there. So if Daniel Jones can step up, every one of these guys can be values from Saquon all the way down, because they're all, I mean, like, the ADPs are ridiculous for these guys. It's like, they're not even on the board. They haven't seen Sterling Shepard's name in a year and a half. You know what I mean? It's just like I know he tore his Achilles, but I mean, like, they say he might play, but it's like all these guys are values at their ADP if Daniel Jones is any good. But if Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones, then they're all going to be bad, because that team has been either last or tied for dead last in touchdowns 2 years in a row. And that's pretty terrifying.
Well, I think it's good for them that they did go out and get Brian Daboll, who, basically turned the Bills around. But I'm definitely with Jen on the fact that I think Kadarius Toney might be a little cuckoo. And then they went out and drafted Wan'Dale Robinson, and they basically utilized Toney in the slot. And now, from what I heard from the OTAs, was that they were using Robinson in the slot. So that might just be something to monitor. They might be going with a little bit more of the sure thing rather than the wild card. But I'm not denying Toney's talent at all.
Absolutely, especially at that ADP. I think just the talent there. It's a solid bet to make, especially how you your roster construction definitely matters. We know, Jen, you got to get out of here. Again, we do thank you so much for hopping on. Like I said, it was 2 years in the making, but finally Corral Jen got you in. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a blast.
Do you think it's a coincidence that the moment the show is powered by Fantasy Alarm, all of a sudden Jen is just like drawn in, and she's just like, she actually made it over? Yeah, I think that,
But no, it's because there's a baseball game going on.
You think
Jen's like deep in baseball right now.
The powers of Fantasy Alarm. Jen, you're so impressive too, in that sense that it's like you could be so deep in baseball and then just take a little time out and just spit some knowledge for everybody about football. So you're super cool. You're a cool girl, Jen. That's all.
Thanks.
That's all I gotta say. You're the coolest.
You didn't have to walk back the super cool, Coop. You walked that one back real quick.
Because she's not with Fantasy Alarm anymore.
Well, she saw Jameson Taillon come on with us, and now look at him. He's going to be next to Shane McClanahan. He's might be the Cy Young winner.
She wanted that
bump.
The lightning round bump. Yeah, we've been handing those out. So Matthew Berry probably got like 7 followers last week from this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just what happens. No rhyme or reason. It's just what happens. But we'll get out of here. Yeah, it is hot. We will get out of here, though. Next week, we will have Pat Fitzmaurice from Fantasy Pros. We're going into redraft, talking about some quarterbacks, quarterback fantasy preview. So stay tuned for that. Of course, anything else, guys, before we get on out of here?
Use promo code ALARM.
Go Hawks.
That is true. Coop, you also have something to say at the end here. For Britt Flynn, for Jen Piacenti, I am Kevin Tompkins and Andrew Cooper.
Toodles.